I was watching the Puff Daddy documentary.
Of course.
Dude.
Yeah.
Speaking of Saddam.
Yeah.
Dark.
Really?
Dude, Puff is like I always heard, and then as the news kind of, you see these like kind of flashes, like, oh, charged with this, and you're like, but when you sit and you watch, here's the thing about this. I watched the one on Max. It's I don't know, 6-part series. It's like pretty in depth. These are not just like stories. They're sit down interviews with, because if you're like, oh, who is it? Childhood best friend, personal bodyguard for like 10 years, former employees, former artists that he worked with, like
the chef
that cooked in his house for years. It's everybody that was intimately involved with this guy, and everything that they said. I mean, he's a monster. Yeah, there's like when you watch this, you end up going like, oh, there's a real probability that I don't think he's going to see the light of day. Probability. Did I say it wrong?
Did you guys hear probability?
Why did you have to fucking do that?
Just making sure you're talking properly.
Speaking properly?
You got choking again, or?
No, I just was in between words I was going to say.
Oh, okay.
I think there's a real probability that he's not going to see the light of day.
Oh, if he can, yeah, they can. But
if any of these charges stick, you're like, dude,
well,
you
if
are.
he made the stupid mistake of videotaping all these assaults on people. And why does he videotape? So that he can blackmail people later? Mm-hmm. But that's going to be the nail in his coffin with these cases.
Maybe if you want to just jack your D later to it.
I guess. No, it's Tom. I mean, everything you watch before bed is a steady diet of awful and just chaos and murder and destruction. And that one was like, oof, thank God I was on cold medicine. I could like...
Yeah, you kind of tapped out of it. But it is fucked up, man.
No, I know. This woman's like crying in the interview. She's like, I haven't been able to wear the color red in 5 years.
Oh, it's really fucked up. Yeah.
He gave me a cup of red. Like it was a red cup with poison, like with
whatever
he drugged
her and then,
God damn. Well,
allegedly, we should say.
Oh yeah, sure.
Allegedly.
It's pretty
and
true.
And then he allegedly forced himself into her, and then she vomited on the table, and then he kept doing it.
And what's really crazy to me is she's like, yeah, I knew him. Like he would call me and we would chat on the phone. It's not like he just plucked her out of a nightclub or she's a sex worker that he's torturing. Like they had a rapport.
Yeah.
And then the people that worked in his home, like his domestic staff, tortured these poor, pushed them around, swearing at them, calling them.
The crazy thing, you know what the crazy thing is? Each of them, so they interviewed his executive assistant, like the last one that he had. And he was like, oh man, I was so excited to work for, like, he's somebody I idolized. And I was like, I get to work for Puff. And then you see, Puff left him not just text, but voice notes so that you get to hear his voice. And he's like, hey man, go ahead and get that lube and that baby oil over to the ground for one of my parties. So it's like, he's like, I'm just delivering like baby oil and lube and condoms to parties. And I have to clean them. He goes, the cleanup was the worst. Because you just cleaning up like 8 used condoms. And then he would destroy hotel rooms.
Oh,
so they were like, we have to like send a special unit to like clean up the hotels. And then he goes one time, and then the guy started crying. He's like, Puff was like, hey man, like it's time, like a loyalty test. Like, you're with me, right? You're with me on all this shit. And he's like, yeah, like, he's like, all right, fuck her. And the girl was like, it's okay. Like gave him the head nod. And then he's like, I started to like have sex with someone that I didn't want to. And he's like, this guy's like crying in the interview. And then he's like, and then when Puff left, I stopped and I was like throwing up. Like it's really traumatizing people.
You know what's so interesting? And I've said this before on the show and I'll say it again.
Yeah.
The people in showbiz who pretend to be like, everything's great, I'm just lifting everybody up. Like they really present themselves as the good guys. They're covering up the darkest. Meanwhile, Guys like you who are like, I wipe the cum on the sheets, I shit in my hand, I do all these like, these are the normal ones.
Yeah.
It's always the guys that present is like,
Do you know how all this kicked off for him too, they said?
I hate this
like
shit.
Not kicked off in terms of behavior, but in terms of this becoming an issue
Cassie?
for him. Yes, but it was the
awards.
The award ceremony. He
was,
got
like,
an
threatening
award.
her.
He had not been with this person in years. And then in the award ceremony, this is recent, right? Like semi-recent. It was last year, I think. He's like, also, just want to give a shout out to Cassie. Like, it's all love or whatever. Something like that.
No, he goes, thank you for being with me in my darkest.
Yeah.
When I was at my worst, I was in my darkest.
And then she saw that and was like, fuck you. Because she took it as like a veiled threat in a way, And that is what, so him just having the nerve to mention her is what like elicited everything. Isn't that wild?
I know. Eventually these guys get caught. And I hate to say it, but no, people in Hollywood are horrible generally. Not to this level, but I've worked for some fucking demons as well.
Of course, we all have. Yeah.
This is other level, but most of them are like this. It's fucking terrible. Not to this scale.
Ooh, hey Jeans, did you enjoy that highlight? Why don't you have one more click of fun around here? I don't know. Click here or here or here. Try it out. Have more fun. Why don't you subscribe? That way, every time a video drops, you can be notified. You can send it to your grandmother. You're not going to miss a moment of denim, okay? Try it out.